Hey guys, welcome back to Margo Watches Movies. My name is Jake Margo. Tonight, a first for the channel, I'm going to be reviewing a new docu-series, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, aka the Diddy doc, produced executively from Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, in which the reason I started watching this in the first place was seeing the interviews of 50 Cent on ABC, which allegedly he did because it's one of the only channels broadcast in prison. This was a man glowing, irradiating with pure joy from the amount of hating he was doing. 50 Cent is a first ballot Hall of Fame hater. He inspires others to hate harder. He is, and what he was able to accomplish, which was essentially finding a videographer that P. Diddy had hired during his trial to walk around and film him as he's having talks with his defense attorney, talking strategy and PR moves with his son. And he didn't pay the guy. So 50 Cent offered the guy a check, said, give me that footage. And what he used it to tell this story. And it's not necessarily like the main focal point of the whole documentary. A lot of the footage in there that 50 was able to obtain is very damning. It is not a good look for P. Diddy or his son, Justin Combs, who comes out of this documentary looking much, much worse. As someone who hasn't really delved into every nuance of the case, I wasn't sure how involved anyone from his family was, but his son Justin, as I guess a casual, came out looking way worse from this documentary. He was very heavily involved in both the affairs of Diddy and in a lot of cases helped participate in a lot of the heinous acts he committed, along with seemingly shooting somebody, allegedly. So all in all, I guess, is there a lot of new stuff in this documentary? I think so. I think it's 100% worth a watch. At the very worst, it's incredibly entertaining with a lot of salacious revelations and, horrible acts. And what it does a really good job of is kind of breaking down the joke that P. Diddy has become in the public eye and in the pop culture sphere. He's really become a bit of a punchline. You no longer, if you say something sus, you say no Diddy now. The baby oil jokes, the freak offs, all of that stuff has really just become a walking punchline. And when it becomes a joke for so long, I think some of the heinousness of his actions get decreased by that. So this documentary was a very nice refresher of, oh yeah, this guy is a horrible, despicable human being. And it's not that you don't think that to begin with, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's just when there's so many jokes made about him, it really takes away and negates from the horrible actions committed. And this documentary is a nice reminder of, oh yeah, this guy is one of the worst human beings. And it's not just the horrible, unforgivable sexual, physical, and emotional abuse he committed, the many numerous acts. It's the lack of paying artists. It's the way he was really manipulating himself through other artists to try and progress his career further. An episode that covers the East Coast versus West Coast war that happened in the 90s, resulting in the death, obviously, of two of the greatest rappers to ever live, Tupac Shakur and Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G. All of this comes to light, and you're left after some really damning videotapes that allegedly had never been shown to the public, as it's mentioned in the documentary, that show a gang member of the Crips talking about to police how P. Diddy is the one that financed the hit on Tupac Shakur. So you're left leaving this, and that's always really, and especially in the last few years, that's always something that's hung over P. Diddy. Rappers like Eminem have called him out in bars about it. But it's hard not to walk away from this documentary and not come to the conclusion that P. Diddy more than likely killed Tupac Shakur. Now, I'll briefly touch on a couple things I didn't necessarily enjoy on the documentary, or lack of inclusion. I wish the documentary had touched on a few more things. A lot of people surrounding him were seemingly left alone. People like Jay-Z and Usher, a lot of the celebrities that frequented his parties are not mentioned. A few are shown in photographs, particularly an A-list actor with an Italian philosopher name who's in many of the movies behind me here. He's one of my favorite actors, and I've seen photos of him before, but you see him like young at a whiteout Diddy party, Leonardo DiCaprio, and you're just kind of like, damn, what happened? So, but the lack of like any focus whatsoever. I don't think Jay-Z's mentioned a singular time in the documentary, and that felt purposeful. And maybe 50 and Jay-Z are on good terms. I don't know, but stuff like that being left out, I felt like we're not getting the complete full picture. And you have to remember, like, this is coming from a man that absolutely justifiably hates P. Diddy. So leaving out big bits of that, it definitely touches on some of his, homosexual tendencies, his sexual assault on men, along with a very damning allegation made by his former business partner of Bad Boys, who had 25% stake. Of course, Diddy screwed him out of the 25% stake, but he also alleges that he was sexually assaulted by him. But it didn't get near enough the attention I was expecting 50 to go into that route. He gives plenty of time, a full episode devoted to his many and numerous female victims, including, his ex-wife and the mother of his children, Kim Porter, pop star Cassie. So that part, all of that, it was really, I don't want to say good, but, it was nice to see a couple of his victims have a chance to defend themselves. Cassie was largely absent as far as giving her little bits of like testimony in the documentary, where others, are actually being interviewed by the filmmaking crew. But there's plenty of footage along with a male escort who alleges he was paid numerous thousands and thousands of dollars over an 8-year span for basically Diddy to be a cuck to, while he watched Cassie and him get it on. So there's a lot of salacious and seedy material, tea, good gossip things mixed with some really damning bits of video, to where you come out here reminded just what an awful human being Sean Diddy Combs is. He is not just the butt of a joke. He should be, but you have to carry in mind that he was committing horrible actions. He more than likely resulted in the death of two of the greatest rappers to ever do it. And he looked so bad in this documentary that Suge Knight came out looking and smelling like roses by comparison. So a lot of interesting stuff. 100% worth watching. If you're at all been someone drawn into this case or curious, there's a lot of good info there. I think it's totally worth it. It's 4 episodes. They're about an hour long each, so it's about a 4-hour binge. I honestly couldn't stop watching. I did it in one sitting to give you a little bit of how compelling it was. So told a very nice and complete story, bookended with the recently purchased footage from 50 Cent. So all in all, I heartily recommend watching The Reckoning on Netflix. Well done, 50 Cent. For the most part, you left out a couple people, but that's okay. We still got a lot of new info, a lot of damning material, and a lot of stuff I didn't know. So that's my review. I'd like to know what you guys thought. Have you watched it yet? You planning on watching it? Give me a comment. Leave me a like if you enjoyed the review. If you're new to the channel, you want to see more reviews, give me a subscribe. But other than that, that's all for tonight. My name's Jake Margo. This is Margo Watches Movies. And as always, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.